thing that appeals at St. Mary's is absolute good, strong biblical preaching. People come to church to hear the Word of God.
I know very little about Mary in terms of what she actually looked like. What we do know is that she was born on Christmas Eve, 1864, and her little name is scratched into a window pane with the date at Tuckahoe Plantation. Mary lived during a really difficult time. It was the countryside was devastated. The economy was totally depleted. The South was about to collapse, and there was no medicine. There were no doctors. There was no central heating. There were a million reasons why Mary would have had a very difficult time surviving, and she lived until the next August the 14th. She obviously had a great impact on her parents because they wanted to do something lasting and good in her memory, and so they petitioned the local Episcopal Church up at Goochland Courthouse, Grace Church, and they gave permission for a church to be built here as a mission. And St. Mary's the process began in 1865, and it took them 11 years to collect the $1,500 that it took to build the church. And so in 1876, the building commenced with local carpenters and a local architect. Little St. Mary's was completed, and it was consecrated on Easter Eve of 1878 in what Bishop Whittle called desolate country. If you look at the stones in the churchyard, you'll notice a number of people died following the great influenza epidemic of 1918. There were a number of burials there, and then came the Depression. And during the Depression, a very small cadre of people functioned here. Would stoke the wood stoves and would have Sunday school and a choir and so forth. Stanley Ashton came at the end of the 40s. He was the director of Roslyn, the conference center on River Road, and he devoted half time to Roslyn, half time to St. Mary's. That continued until 1962. But it was a history during that period between 1880 and through the 40s into the 50s with Stan Ashton, Giles Palmer, and visiting ministers and the lay leadership of the lay readers that kept things going.
I came along and inserted some ideas that the people here hadn't had at the moment, but they bought the ideas, and the ideas produced fruit, and the growth is a consequence, and all of this is simply, I see it as a culmination of what I started and John has continued.
Holt Souter, who was affectionately known as the Parson, guided the development of St. Mary's between 1962 and 1984. He said when he came here there were 100 souls, including the little children, and when he retired there were 560. He was quite a great teacher in the tradition, and also a very fine golfer. We were determined not to mess up something gorgeous. Little St. Mary's is a gem. It's an architectural gem. And when we linked these buildings together, we had architects that understood how the buildings worked, how the flow of the movement of the people, the children, and how the worship services work here. And they were able conceptually to build, to plan a set of buildings that echoed in a larger scale what you see in the little buildings, the older historic buildings. this is quite an unfolding story. We're in progress. We are a work in progress. We are a mission church still, because little Mary Allen and her life affected people who wanted to do this. And the Allens and the Wickhams combined forces, and here we are.